I've told you guys thousands of times about the story of 1972 when I went to a concert at Cole Fieldhouse. The opening act was Mandrill. The second act was a group by the name of Earth, Wind and Fire. The closing act that night was Stevie Wonder. Of course, we never got a chance to see Stevie Wonder because when y'all finished with us, the show was over. Ladies and gentlemen, the fabulous Verdine White, Ralph Johnson, Earth, Wind and Fire in the building. Gentlemen, this is a pleasure.
Well, good day.
Yes, indeed.
How are you?
Good to
I'm
see you.
doing well.
Great.
And then my next Earth, Wind and Fire moment was 1974, my very first commercial radio station, the very first song I played.
Okay.
Really?
Mighty Mighty.
Mighty, mighty.
Yeah.
You know,
Good choice.
You might have to tell the listeners, they might have to Google, mandrill and things like that, because, you mentioned
Yeah,
names,
because it's been a while since
you're mentioning names that some of the audience might not know, outside of Stevie and Earth Wind.
We know Earth, Wind, though.
Yeah, but I always tell people when I make speeches, particularly a certain age range, I said,
Right, Google it. Right, right.
Well, you've got a lifetime of timeless records and music and style and just, how can I phrase it? This is exciting.
Well, thank you, Maurice White.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for Reese, we wouldn't be sitting here,
What a genius.
And the work
Yeah.
carries on, and that's what he would love for us to do. And now we have like 5 generations that come to the show, and then we're of course going to be here in Houston. The show's sold out, so we're good. So
We're excited. Excited about being here.
Yeah. We had a chance to see you a couple of years back. I think it was either with Tower Power or Chicago.
It had to be Chicago.
Out
It
of
was
the-
Chicago,
We
yeah.
haven't played with Tower
Chicago.
Power, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a night. We had a couple of questions from some folk before you got here. We wanted to just ask you if you don't mind.
Yeah.
One guy wanted to know what's missing in today's R&B, in your opinion.
Well, that's always a great question, but I got to tell you, I think he probably sounds like he's older, probably, you know what I mean? But I think right now music is in really good hands. I think now this particular business model, I think now it's been figured out what it is. I think with the great acts that we're having, with people like Bruno Mars and Janelle Monáe, it's in good hands. You know what I mean? If anything's missing, I think that'll be remains to be seen. But right now, I'm real confident of where music is right now.
Yeah, when someone asks a question like that, you're saying that music is not evolving. It has to evolve. So, what's missing? Nothing, because it's evolving.
Excellent.
Constantly.
Absolutely.
Ralph Johnson, Verdine White, Earth, Wind and Fire in town, in studio, in Houston tonight. The show is sold out, but it's still good to have you, to record you, to have this piece of history and time with us. So my next question comes from a young lady who wanted to know, what is love?
What is love?
What is love?
A very, very deep feeling, a very deep respect for someone or something. It's hard to define love. Love is a very broad word, like music.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, I feel like we're doing a show called The Love Doctors.
Well, maybe we are. Hey, look out.
You're actually rock and roll people what love is.
What is
Wow.
love?
Well, the last you want to know to ask about us, but if anything, it's really about communication. It's about universality. And
It's respect and reverence.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Earth, Wind and Fire. Last question from our audience. What new school artists do you like or you listen to? And you
Well,
are
like
from-
I said before, I mentioned Bruno Mars. We love Chance, the rapper who we had a chance to work with, and
Kendrick Lamar.
So
Yeah.
all the newbies, Bruno,
Janelle.
they all dig us, and we love them, and we're just part of all one big happy musical family.
Yeah.
That we've all been influenced by each other too.
Yeah. I can only imagine. And Ralph, you came up as a drummer, Verdine, you're still one of the best bassists ever. In your house, what did y'all listen to?
Well, back in the day,
Yes, sir.
Our era, and you and me, we listened to everything: jazz, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Motown, the Beatles, right? Yeah, that's it wasn't why Mahalia Jackson. For the listeners, Google, because some of the names.
That's our core. This is you talking to your core.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so y'all ain't got to do that. But anyway, that's what we listen to.
For me, coming from LA, we had a radio station for every genre of music, whether it be country and western, gospel. I personally got turned on to jazz right around 1965 and discovered we had a 24-hour jazz station going on, and I just fell in love with it, and have since become enamored with what you do, broadcasting. So I have since done a couple of shows for BBC Radio 2 in London on jazz. I call it Jazz Epicenter 6.7, the finest in jazz from the 60s and 70s.
It's a wonderful business. It's a great way to communicate with a lot of different people.
Yes.
And we thoroughly love what we do. Having grown up with you, I think my first album was Last Days in Time.
Okay, that was the first record on
first one on
Columbia
Columbia.
Records. Yeah.
Before that, I remember 2 records set on Warner Bros.
On Warner,
Two
right?
records
And
on
then
Warner
before
Bros.
that, we had the Sweet Sweetback soundtrack with Melvin Van Peebles.
See, that I forgot about.
Right, that was like the first of the African American films that were starting then.
Yeah.
So, Maurice, being the genius, obviously, that he was, and in some places still is, because the spirit doesn't die, and I get that.
Right.
What was that like in the lab when he started to tinker and move things around, or have you on a different count, or have you do a different run? What was that experience like?
Ralph, you go first because you guys are drummers. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's what we had in common. Maurice and I were drummers, and Maurice was a very driven man. He always knew what he was doing in the studio and out of the studio. He wanted a band that would have an incredible live presentation, but wanted to do good records, because back then not all bands that were doing good records were able to pull it off live. But he wanted something very different. And if you look back on a package that Columbia has called the Columbia Masters, it's 16 CDs of music that this man created. Wow. That's a lot of work. And you have to be driven. You have to be on a mission to pull something like that off. So to be up under him and ask the questions and watch the magic happen was a tremendous experience, and it's something that carries over for us today.
Yeah, as Ralph said, we were with a master, and Reese had a very definite idea about what he wanted to do. And prior to that, for those that don't know, he was the drummer for Ramsey Lewis.
Right.
And prior to that, he was the drummer on Chess Records, all those hit records, Fontella Bass, and all those people.
And he was a session drummer.
That's right, he was a session drummer.
Right, Billy Stewart.
Right, Billy Stewart. That's right, Billy Stewart.
Yeah.
And so he was able to really kind of put all that formula together and come up with a band, as Ralph said, that could do all different types of music. And it was great for us because we had a chance to experiment a lot, and he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and that's a big thing,
Are there any particular rituals that you guys do before you go on? I mean, I know a lot of guys go into prayer or a little meditation. Just curious to find out what my favorite band does before you guys.
Well, we get in a circle.
Yeah, the circle. We circle up and hold hands and send it up.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we go out, because then we're one mind.
Yes.
And we go out and attack what we have to do.
Right. During the day, we're doing our thing. We're traveling. We're moving around, but when we get into the circle, that we call it the circle of love, and then we have honorary people that may come into the circle.
Yeah,
sometimes.
if you get invited to the circle.
If you get invited to the circle, we have an honorary circle sometimes. Our buddy Paxton Baker out of D.C. has been in our honorary circle. The great actor Maury Hardrick has been in our circle. Yeah, so Maury's been in the circle. So if you're around, you get a chance. Larry, if you're around next time, you get in the circle with us.
I would appreciate it.
Get some of that.
Well, guess what? Y'all in my circle of right now.
Right on.
I got you surrounded.
Thank you.
So, one of my, really, honestly, one of the questions if I ever had a chance to speak, I was so curious about the transition pieces on the album from one song to the other.
The interludes.
Those interludes, those vamps were so amazing in themselves. Was that all Reese, or as a group?
Well, Reese and the late Charles Stepney.
Yeah, they started that move.
Okay.
And that, of course, when you had albums, you were able to do crossfades.
Yeah.
And one record could go to the next. If you on the I Am album, you could go from After the Love Is Gone and So Let You Feel and Show. So it kind of goes along with that particular concept, but it was a thread.
Yes.
A whole story. That's what the albums were, a story.
Yeah.
And that's what this group has done for me through the years, is the stories and the journey. personal favorite has been Faces.
Yes.
Personal favorite out of Faces, In Time and Sail Away.
Oh, Sail Away, yeah.
I love that's
Sail
one of
Away.
my favorites.
Yeah.
Sail Away is a great song.
Bro, I get
Yeah.
goosebumps on that one because it
Yeah.
just it the orchestration of it all,
Right.
and you can all you need to do is close your eyes and you can simply sail away.
Yes.
It's a beautiful
absolutely.
body of work.
And you know, Larry, what's going on too, what helps us also too, see, you all are turning the younger generation
Yes.
on to the music. See, we don't have to do anything. You guys are sort of doing it. And because, you know, the kids come home and say, oh, check this out. They say, oh, no, this is where it came from. So that has a lot to do with a lot of the people that are coming to see us. You know,
Yeah.
the parents and the brothers and the cousins are, you know,
Right there with it.
right there with
Yeah.
us.
It's exciting. I am so respectful of your time, so I'm not going to hold you much longer because I could literally love.
We'll
on
do an
you
hour
all
next
day.
time. We'll do something, you know, longer version.
We'll go to lunch. We'll hang out. We'll play with the grandkids. We'll do a whole lot of stuff.
Do a lot of
together.
stuff.
A lot of stuff.
Right.
Ralph Johnson, Verdine White. God continue to bless you, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
so
Larry.
much.